Hi, I'm Joshua. This is another of my little videos. I hope you find it as entertaining to watch as I did to make it. There's a lot in the news these days about the economy, the economic collapse. It's the end of times, you know. There'll soon be fire and brimstone and whatnot. Oh no, there won't. See, a lot of the economic turmoil revolves around the stock market. It's not real money. It doesn't become real money until people try to cash it in. And a lot of the problem, of course, came about when companies stopped worrying about making stuff and started worrying more about making money. And, so you have the Nikes and the Wal-marts of the world. They're less concerned with, you know, the actual service that they're meant to provide and more concerned with getting the most for the least and selling it for a maximum profit with the least possible payroll. Be that as it may, I'm not really here to talk about the economy. Well, I am in a way. I'm trying to get a more holistic sense of the way that the world works. I think that that's what I'm supposed to do as I age. I'm supposed to become, you know, a senior citizen in the proper sense of that, not just an old person, but a senior citizen, an elder statesman, a person to whom the younger generation can turn for wisdom. That's culturally what we do as a people. Does that sound conceited in a little way? I mean, I'm talking historically that that's how our culture has worked. The global economic crisis is really just part of the moving around of money that doesn't really exist from one place where it's not real to another place where it's less real. If you tried to cash in every single dollar that's out there in the stock market, that money doesn't actually exist. There's nothing factual and tangible that is represented by that money. There are more actual certificates for barrels of oil on the market than there are existent barrels of oil. It's just pieces of paper trading hands. We have to look at ourselves as a society and say, what kind of a society do we want to be? I think that what we need to do is change the way that we live our lives. Every single person who has lost their job and blames it on the economy, or God forbid, or Barack Obama, or preceding that, George Bush, have to look at themselves and ask themselves, did I shop at Walmart? Did I support that sort of a corporate structure that actually makes it very difficult for independent businesses to survive? That kind of competition is not really healthy, but it is the direct result and the goal of a pure free market capitalist economy. Getting the absolute most for the absolute less and selling it to you for a maximum profit while paying a minimum payroll. Sounds great if you own Walmart. See, what I'm talking about is people taking accountability for their own actions in their own lives. Part of that is people who make a lot of money not making a lot of money anymore. I mean, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of money, but there's a point at which it becomes stupid money. And that's when you have gold-plated Cadillacs. I don't know if there is a gold-plated, I'm sure there is actually. I've never seen it, but why wouldn't there be? One of the things that brought this home to me was a story about a man who was robbed of some jewelry while he was in a Starbucks. What's so strange about that, you'd say? Well, $60,000 worth of jewelry in some sort of a container that could be carried away by a single person. Gold, diamonds, emeralds, rubies, probably large value in small container. Yeah, it was $60,000 worth of dog jewelry. In my mind, $60,000 worth of dog jewelry should be a full truckload. Beyond that, there should actually be no dog jewelry. It is a ridiculous waste of money and resources. I know that we have jewelry and we have a long tradition of creating jewelry out of precious metals and precious stones. That's not going to stop. That's part of human culture. We have an appreciation for beauty and an appreciation for the rarity of these elements. Right, fair enough. But dog jewelry is part of the problem. In 2007, in the United States of America, and I'm going to say that these numbers are probably adjustable to 10% based on population for Canada, where I live as well, Americans spent $41 billion on their pets. Now, a lot of that, of course, was pet food and leashes and little booties so they don't get salt in their paws when they're walking in the city. Fair enough. I understand a lot of those things, even the booties. You shouldn't have dogs in the city, but people do. There you go. Part of that, however, was $3 billion spent on services such as dog massage, dog acupuncture, and dog psychotherapy. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no such thing as dog psychotherapy. There's dog training. There is no dog psychotherapy. Dogs do not have a psyche, because dogs are dogs. That is a part of the adjustment that people have to make. If we started there, we could really move on to other things. Let me just put that into perspective. The thing about the gold Cadillacs is that it's irresponsible to have a gold Cadillac when there are people who are struggling to feed their kids. You shouldn't have that much wealth while other people have so little wealth. And even if in your perception, those people are lazy and not working hard enough, and if they really just got up off their ass, they could do what you did. They can't, really. I mean, statistically it's impossible, and realistically it's impossible. Nobody can do that, and the society can't be that way. But even the least in the society should at least be cared for, and not have to live in squalor. $41 billion spent on pets. Now again, it's food. We do have to care for foods, and we have an obligation to care for animals as stewards of nature around us. We are supposed to be the higher being, and we should care for animals. But $41 billion is greater than the gross domestic product of Liberia, Togo, Zambia, Somalia, and Gabon combined. It is greater than the gross domestic product of both Uruguay and Paraguay. If America is so wealthy that they can spend the amount of money that's produced by a large chunk of continental Africa, or two reasonably prosperous countries in South America, then it seems to me that the United States could be doing more, not only for the rest of the world, but also internally, to have prevented this very sort of thing from happening. Now again, back to the animals, back to the economy. I'm trying to bring this all together. I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time. But what I am saying is that a nation that is so willing to pay so much money for animal care, for pet care, should readjust its priorities and spend that money in ways that are more productive. Now, of course, if you insist on spending your money on your animals rather than buying $60,000 worth of dog jewelry, you can support an organization like the Fauna Foundation. They take medical research chimpanzees and give them a final resting place where they have some dignity. I think that may sound a little hypocritical when I talk about giving animals dignity, but when you think of the suffering that we put those animals to, going back to our stewardship of the animal kingdom and the care that we are obligated to give to animals as higher beings, I think that we do have something of a debt to any kind of an animal that we use for medical experimentation. A lot of the chimps in places like the Fauna Foundation or Jane Goodall and other organizations around the world have originally been used as performing animals, and then were taken into medical research, and ultimately they, following lots of biopsies and various medical procedures, often end up being injected with HIV/AIDS and observed to develop medicines for humans. So ultimately they are making a sacrifice, an unwilling sacrifice, to better humanity. So that is where my hypocrisy comes in there. I think it's a justifiable hypocrisy. My point there is, help the world in some small way. If you have wealth, extend that wealth and pay it forward. There's no reason for you to have a mansion. There's no reason for you to have There's no reason for anyone to have a Hummer for domestic use. There's no practical purpose to it, and it does nothing for the betterment of society. So if you own a Hummer and you're driving it, you are partially responsible for everything that's happening right now. So is everybody. So am I. We all have to change the way that we do things. Does that mean putting a windmill in your backyard to generate electricity? No, it does not. Does that mean that everybody has to drive an electric car and ride a bicycle down the street and plant 63 trees? No, it certainly doesn't mean that either. What it means is that we have to readjust our approach to life and accept some changes in our lifestyle. Nothing is permanent. And if you think that 50 years ago and 100 years ago and 150 years ago how different our lifestyles would have been in those times, think again how different our lifestyle will be in 25 and 50 years from now. It's going to change. It will change. It must change. It's not a question of if, but of when and how. And what has happened is that our economic backbone has come out of alignment. It needs a little bit of chiropractic. I don't believe in chiropractic in real life. I'm using that as a metaphor. What we need to do is just to get everything back on track, one way or another. It might mean trading locally. It might mean you don't get strawberries in February anymore. You really shouldn't be getting strawberries in February unless you live in, well, Paraguay or Uruguay, where your gross domestic product is less than $41 billion US annually. It's just a nation in decline. It's nothing to worry about. It just seems that free market capitalism is a failure. I mean, it's failed elsewhere. It was bound to fail in the United States. I mean, it can only last as long as there are other countries to exploit for labor and raw materials. Okay? Nothing to worry about. Everybody, peace, sweet dreams, carry on. Love one another, love your animals, but don't love them too much, and don't love them that way. Don't get in the tub with them and have champagne dinners with them because they might tear your friend's face off. True that. I don't know why I said that. That was bad. I'll delete that.